Hi guys! I know it's been a while, but I've been super busy working on stuff for a baby shower that I'm hosting this November. I'll be sure to share everything with you guys from that shower sometime before the end of this year, but first I wanted to share one last fall DIYs video with you guys, and then we'll be moving on to Christmas crafting, which I am super excited about. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Amy and my channel is Creatively Expressive, and today I've got some fun fall DIYs to share with you guys. So now without any further ado, let's get into the video. My first three projects will be grouped together as a set for display, and I will be using these 3 pumpkin wood blanks that I found at Goodwill. For the first pumpkin, I will be using the paint colors Tuscan Teal, Pumpkin, Brown Oxide, and French Linen. I'm going to tape off a section at the bottom of the pumpkin, front and back, and paint the bottom section in the color Tuscan Teal. And when I am painting, I am pulling my brush away from the tape to hopefully prevent my paint from bleeding under the tape. When the Tuscan Teal is dry, I peel away the tape and then tape off a new section on the pumpkin. I put a piece of tape right over top of the Tuscan Teal, lining up the edge of the tape with the edge of the paint color. And then I will put a second piece of tape about 2 inches or so away, taping off a second stripe on the pumpkin. And once again, I am taping off the front, the back, and the sides. For the second stripe, I am using the color Pumpkin. Again, I want to minimize any bleed through, so I'm pulling my paintbrush in the direction away from the tape. So for this section, I will need to paint in one direction for one side of the tape, and then turn my pumpkin and work in the opposite direction for the other piece of tape, making the paint meet up in the middle of the stripe. Then when the orange paint is dry, I will peel away my tape again and tape off a new section and paint this third section with the color Brown Oxide. When the brown is dry, I will tape off my last section and paint it in the color French Linen. Now I am taking a small stiff bristle paintbrush and I am going to use it to lightly dry brush the color Burnt Umber over the entire pumpkin. To dry brush, I dip my paintbrush in the paint and then dab most of it off and then brush that almost dry brush over the pumpkin, which will add just a slight amount of paint to my surface. Now I'm using the color white and I'm going to dry brush that white over the entire pumpkin as well. Dry brushing both colors is going to add some distressing texture and detail to my pumpkin. Now I'm going to paint this little fall word cutout that I got from Dollar Tree in the color white. Then when it is dry, I'm going to use some StarBond super glue to glue the word to the front of the pumpkin, and then this first pumpkin is complete. Now for project number 2, I will be painting my second pumpkin of my pumpkin trio. This pumpkin has some raised and recessed areas to it, and I am going to paint the recessed areas with the color Brown Oxide. Then I'm going to take that stiff bristle paintbrush and I'm going to dry brush over the painted area with the color Burnt Umber. And then I will dry brush over that same area with the white chalk paint. Then finally I will paint the raised areas, the sides, and the back of this pumpkin with the color white chalk paint, and then this second pumpkin is complete. For project number 3, I will be painting the final pumpkin of my pumpkin trio. First, I am going to paint the entire pumpkin with the color French Linen Chalk Paint. Then I will dry brush over the entire pumpkin first with the Burnt Umber. And then with the white chalk paint. Now I want to create a little striped plaid section off to one side of this pumpkin. So I'm using masking tape to tape off a skinny line near the bottom of the pumpkin. Since the section is so skinny, I am just going to be using a fine detailed paintbrush and the color pumpkin to paint a line in between those two pieces of tape. And for this pumpkin, I am just painting the lines on the front of the pumpkin. Once the orange is dry, I am taping off a second line just slightly above the first, and I am going to paint that line with the color Brown Oxide. Now I am taping off a third stripe just above the second, but this time I am making the stripe a little fatter than the first two. And I will paint this stripe with the color Tuscan Teal. Now I will tape off and paint 2 more skinny stripes above the teal stripe, repeating the colors with the first 2 stripes, brown and then orange. And now I'm going to repeat all of the steps that I did with those first 5 stripes, except I will turn my pumpkin and the stripes will be vertical and not horizontal this time. Then, so the stripes blend better with the rest of the pumpkin, I'm going to dry brush over them with some white chalk paint. Now I'm going to paint this little leaf cutout that I got in a pack from Amazon in the color white, but first I am going to cut off that little stem with an X-Acto knife. Then finally, I'm going to use some StarBond super glue to glue the leaf to my pumpkin, and this pumpkin is complete. And here's my little trio all together. What do you guys think? For project number 4, I'm using this fall sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. This sign that I found at Hobby Lobby for $1.90. And some of these leaf cutouts from a pack that I got from Amazon. First, I took the 2 signs outside and sanded the pictures off of both of them. Then for the Hobby Lobby sign, I taped off the sides with painter's tape, and I'm going to paint the top of the sign with the color Territorial Beige. Then I will use the Territorial Beige color and the color Light Mocha to paint my sign. I am blending the 2 colors together to create shadows and highlighted areas on the sign. To do this, I'm just using one brush, and I dip it in one color and paint on the sign, and then immediately dip it into the second color and paint over the still wet paint on the sign to blend it out. I am pretending like I have sections to my sign and trying to make sure the highlighted areas will be more in the middle of the imaginary sections. Now I'm using my ruler, a fine detailed paintbrush, and the color Burnt Umber to lightly paint lines on my sign. I'm just lightly running my paintbrush with that burnt umber on it along the edge of the ruler. Then I take the color Coffee Bean with a stiff bristle brush and I attempt to dry brush the color over certain areas to create more shadow. But then I decide I don't like the way that this looks. So now I'm going to take the colors Coffee Bean and Territorial Beige and do the same wet brushing blending technique that I already did with the lighter colors. Then I decided to add in some more of that light mocha color as well, blending the 3 colors on my sign. And this time I am not worried about covering the very center of my sign because it will be covered up later with that Dollar Tree sign. And I am just playing around with the colors, making it darker in some areas and lighter in others. And now that I painted over my lines, I will need to paint them back on. This time I'm mixing a little bit of black paint with that burnt umber since the sign is darker and I want the lines to be clearly visible. Now, if you remember, the Dollar Tree sign had a leaf popping off of the top of the sign. But now, since I sanded the picture off, it doesn't make any sense anymore. So I'm just going to cut that little area off of the plaque shape. Then I'm going to fill in the holes on the plaque with some hot glue and then let the glue harden. Then I use a razor blade to scrape off the excess glue so the plaque is smooth. And now I'm going to paint that plaque with the color Ivory chalk paint. Once the plaque is dry, I'm going to glue it onto the front of the Hobby Lobby sign with some StarBond super glue. Then I chose 4 different leaves from this leaf pack from Amazon, and I'm going to stain them using some antique wax. I brush the wax over the leaves with a paintbrush, and then I wipe off the excess with a baby wipe. Then I went into my Silhouette Design Studio and I designed this decal to fit on the Dollar Tree plaque, and then I used my Cameo 4 to cut it out on matte black vinyl. And to apply the decal to the plaque, I am just going to use transfer tape and parchment paper. I place the transfer tape on top of the parchment paper, leaving a small area of the tape exposed. This allows me to move the decal around on my sign until I get it placed the way I want it. Then once I like the placement, I push the exposed area of the tape down to the sign. Then I am able to remove the parchment paper without the decal moving on me, and I stick the rest of the decal down to my sign, and then remove the transfer tape. And then for the final step, I will use StarBond superglue to glue the leaves down where I think they look good, and this project is complete. What do you guys think? I love this one. I think it turned out so beautiful. project number 5 and the final project, I will be using this blank sign from Dollar Tree. I want to hang this sign horizontally, so I'm just going to cut off the area of the sign that has the 2 little holes in it. Now I'm going to be using the set of fall rub-on transfers that was sent to me from Essential Stencils to try out. I'm going to choose some of the transfers from the set that I want to use for this sign and cut them out. I want to use the smaller girl and boy scarecrows to put on either side of this sign. Then I'm going to choose a few other items for the set that I like for the background for each scarecrow. Now that I have a general setup that I like, I'm using one of these scraper tools that came from the set from Essential Stencils. To use the transfers, you remove the white backing from them and place the clear piece with the picture on it facing you on the sign. Then you take the scraper and you use it to rub over the image. Then I start lifting up the clear piece slowly to see if the image is transferred on the sign. If any areas haven't transferred yet, I just stick the carrier sheet back down and rub over that area again. My sign has some cutout areas on it, so it was a little difficult in those areas because there is nothing for that part of the transfer to stick to. But it still works for me. Now bear with me, I've used transfers maybe twice in my life, so this is a learning experience for me, but I'm having fun with it. After rubbing on my first 2 transfers, I get out my X-Acto knife and cut away the areas of the transfer over the open grooves on my sign. Then when I got to transferring the first scarecrow to the sign, I decided to try and cut away the areas of the transfer over the open grooves on the sign before removing the clear carrier sheet. This breaks up the carrier sheet into 3 sections, like the 3 sections on my sign. So the scarecrow is now in 3 separate pieces and has 3 separate carrier sheets to peel off. I hope this is making sense, but I think you can see what I'm doing. Doing this made it a lot easier to remove the carrier sheet, and this is what I do with the rest of the transfers for this sign. At this point, I made a little mistake. I decided to apply 2 ears of corn at the same time, but I wasn't paying enough attention, and I didn't notice that the first ear of corn is overlapping on the carrier sheet of the second ear of corn. So when I go to remove the second carrier sheet, it peels off a piece of the first ear of corn. But I have a fairly easy fix for that. I just added a third ear of corn over the messed up one, and you can't even tell that I messed it up. Now I'm going to do the opposite side of my sign with the girl scarecrow and some more corn. And I gotta say, this was really fun playing with the transfers and setting up my own scene. And I love the way the transfers looked after being transferred on. They are very high quality, and I love how it gives the look of a picture being painted or printed on the sign, and I am really impressed with these. And now I want to add some wording to the middle of the sign, so I cut out the words Happy Harvest on Stencil Vinyl with my Silhouette Cameo 4. I applied the stencil to my sign using transfer tape and parchment paper, and then I chose a paint color as close to the color of the sign as I could find, and I am going to paint over the stencil with that color first, to hopefully prevent any bleed through of the final color that I will be using. My thought was that if I get any bleed through with this color, it won't be very noticeable, and this color will seal on the edges of my stencil. Now that the first color is dry, I'm going to go over the stencil again with the color Coffee Bean. I am using a sponge stencil brush, and I am just stippling the paint on by moving my brush in a straight up and downward motion. Then when the paint is dry, I remove the stencil and I will attach a hanger to the back for hanging, and this project is complete. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I just want to say thank you to Essential Stencils for sending me the rub-on transfers to try. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please show me some love by subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, giving me a thumbs up, commenting, or even sharing this video with anyone that you think might enjoy it. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Hi guys, I know it's been a while, but I've been super busy working on stuff for a baby shower that I'm hosting this November. And I'll be sure to share to share. I'll be sure to share. Sure to share. Say it with me now. Sure to share. All right.